Hello and welcome to the first episode in a brand new series where I dissect and discuss my favourite F1 races and other happenings from my 20 years following the greatest sport in the world. Today we'll be discussing the first race I remember watching live, the 2001 Malaysian Grand Prix. 2001 was far from a stellar year for F1 as a sport. The thrilling battles we had been treated to over the last 3 years between the two best drivers in the sport, Ferrari's Michael Schumacher and McLaren's Mika Hakkinen, had fallen by the wayside. It became apparent as the season progressed that Mika was just past his best, and Michael was just reaching his. Schumacher had won the opening race of the season at Melbourne comfortably, with David Coulthard second and Schumacher's teammate Rubens Barrichello in third. Hakkinen's race had ended early as a mechanical failure had sent him flying backwards into the wall at high speed at turn 13. So on to Malaysia. Michael was on pole again with Barrichello alongside him, Michael's brother Ralph in P3 and Hakkinen in P4. On race day, the chaos began even before the race. Whilst putting in some reconnaissance laps on his way to the grid, Michael Schumacher's Ferrari produced an oil leak. This forced him into the spare car, because that was a thing back then, although the rules stated that all drivers must be on track by a certain time prior to the race. When this got off his reach, the pit lane is closed. If a driver does not make it out before the pit lane closes, he must start the race from the pit lane. Michael made it out with 1 minute to spare. It's also worth noting that the spare car, for whatever reason, was set up for Barrichello, which made life even more difficult for Schumacher. More drama followed on the formation lap as the Jordan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen developed an engine misfire. This left him trundling around on his own while the rest of the field made their way back to the grid. This caused even more problems. Due to Frentzen being absent from the grid, there was a spare slot. This message fails to reach Benetton driver Giancarlo Fisichella, who lined up in the wrong grid slot. He then realised his mistake and attempted to regain his original grid slot. Unfortunately, he cocked that up too, leaving his Benetton stranded and facing the pit wall. This caused the start to be aborted and triggered a second formation lap. Whilst all this was going on, Williams driver Juan Montoya returned to the pits to swap his race car for his spare car due to an engine problem. After more drama than an episode of a popular TV soap opera, the race finally got underway. Michael made a good start and led into turn 1, while Kimi Raikkonen's Sauber broke down immediately. The second Ferrari of Barrichello had a poor start and was passed by Ralf Schumacher and the other Jordan of Jarno Trulli. Barrichello attempted to repass Ralph into turn 1, but only succeeded in nudging the rear right wheel of the Williams, sending Ralph into a spin. Schumacher fell to last and rejoined the race, while Barrichello moved back up to second. By the end of lap 1, Schumacher led Barrichello with Trulli third and Coulthard fourth. On lap 2, the Honda engine in the back of Olivier Panis's BAR exploded spectacularly through the fast left-right chicane at turns 5 and 6, spilling oil all over the track. At this point, everything went mental. As the leaders started lap 3, the heavens opened. Big time. Turn 6, where Panis's engine had failed, now resembled a skating rink. As Michael Schumacher led his teammate into turn 6 on lap 3, he slid straight off the track, into the gravel and towards the wall. But a mixture of talent and sheer luck kept the Ferrari out of the wall and Michael rejoined, albeit well down the field. So, Barrichello now led, right? Wrong. Rubens had followed Michael into the same gravel trap at the same time. Rubens also managed to rejoin the track and in front of Michael. This left Jarno Trulli in the lead of the race ahead of Coulthard. So I bet you'd imagine all the drivers would be straight in for wet weather tyres now, right? Wrong. Again. Although half the track was completely saturated, the other half was dry. Trulli, Coulthard and the rest of the field continued on to lap 4 as the rain got harder and harder. On this lap, Juan Montoya, the arrows of Enrique Bernoldi, Nick Heidfeld's Sauber and the BAR of Jacques Villeneuve all spun off and retired. All drivers now had no choice but to pit for wet tyres. If they could make it to the pits, that was. The safety car was deployed as rivers began to form on the track. As leaders Trulli and Coulthard approached the pit lane, they lost control and aquaplaned into the gravel at the final corner. Both regained the track and pitted for wet tyres. Barrichello had his second excursion of the day as he too went off at the final corner. The drama wasn't over for Ferrari, as they double-stacked their cars in the pit lane, before it was the whole cool new thing it is now. Barrichello was serviced first as he got to the pits before Michael. However, it quickly became apparent there was a problem with the pit stop. The problem being, Ferrari didn't have a bloody clue what the hell they were doing. Firstly, the tyres weren't ready, and there were mechanics running around everywhere like headless prancing horses. Add to this that there was about 3 million kilos of gravel that needed to be cleared out of Barrichello's sideboards from all his various off-track excursions, and all things considered, the pit stop was a total shit show. God only knows what Michael was thinking sat behind him. For those of you more accustomed to the slick, efficient world of modern F1 with its podium robots and concrete runoffs, when someone says slow pit stop, you probably think about 5 or 6 seconds. Oh no, not for Rubens. This pit stop took 1 minute and 12 seconds. Sounds more like a lap time. Good job the safety car was out. Once the chaos of the pit stops was sorted, the field formed up behind the safety car. David Coulthard was in the lead for McLaren, and can you guess who was second? I'll give you a second. No, you're wrong. It was Frentzen. Remember him? The guy who had a misfire on the formation lap and had to start last? Yep, he was second now. Told you this race was crazy. In third was the orange arrows of the second best Verstappen to ever race in F1, Jos. Yes, that's Max's dad, for those of you not old enough to remember. Verstappen too had come through from the back, having started 18th. At the end of the first lap after the restart, Verstappen got a tow from Frentzen heading towards the final turn and passed to Jordan down the inside to take second. A lap later, Häkkinen and Ralf Schumacher passed Frentzen too, so it was clear there was still a problem with the German's engine. Back in Ferrari land, they were still entrenched in the midfield and Rubens was still ahead of Michael. Barrichello then radioed the team to say that the track off the racing line was extremely dirty and that Michael should take care trying to pass him. Michael responded by deliberately driving onto said dirt to pass Rubens at turn 5. Maybe don't bother next time, Rubens. Michael continued to storm through the field, passing Frentzen, brother Ralf and Häkkinen in 1 lap. In fact, Michael's pace was so strong that commentator Martin Brundle began to question whether or not the Ferraris might actually be running the famously amazing Bridgestone intermediate tyre, while the rest of the field was on full wets. Barrichello was following him through as he too passed Frentzen, Ralf and Häkkinen. Michael was now on the tail of second place Verstappen, who was making his life difficult. The two had been teammates at Benetton in the mid-90s and weren't exactly the best of friends. Eventually Schumacher passed the arrows and set off after race leader Coulthard. 1 lap later he passed Coulthard and took the lead, immediately pulling away at the rate of many seconds per lap. On the same lap, Barrichello passed Verstappen and Coulthard and it was now a Ferrari 1-2. As Barrichello passed Coulthard, it was clear their tyres were different colours, confirming that Ferrari were indeed on intermediates. A tactical masterstroke from the Maranello team that explained why they didn't have any tyres ready when Barrichello originally stopped, although they were probably still arguing about what to put on. So it was finally business as usual in this race, with the Ferraris romping away at the front and Michael on course for yet another win, barring a mechanical issue, which he never really had, did he? A lap later, Häkkinen and Ralf Schumacher made a pit stop for dry tyres, the first ones to do so. The pair were quickly on the pace and immediately began lapping quicker than those on full wets, though the Ferraris on their inters were still coping fine. The second half of the race was uneventful as the first had been chaotic. There's not much to note beside David Coulthard staying out unfathomably long on his full wets, despite his teammate Häkkinen lapping quickly on dry tyres. In fact, by the time DC did come in on lap 25, he was a full 40 seconds behind the Ferraris. The arrows of Jos Verstappen were still battling admirably with Häkkinen, Frentzen and Ralf to score points, but he was ultimately undone by his 3-stop strategy that had made him so fast earlier in the race. So Michael cruised home to take the 46th win of his career, and in doing so broke the record held by Nigel Mansell and Alberto Ascari of 5 successive wins from pole position with his 6th. Barrichello was second, with Coulthard third, and an incredible drive from Frentzen put him 4th, despite his problems on the formation lap, ahead of Ralf Schumacher in 5th and Häkkinen in 6th taking the final point, giving him a total of just 1 point from the first 2 races. Verstappen just missed out on points, coming home in 7th. So that has been my roundup of the 2001 Malaysian Grand Prix, one of the most entertaining and crazy races I've ever seen. Join me again next time for another in-depth look at the madness and mayhem on and off the track in the world of Formula 1. Until then, have a good day, leave a like if you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Bye for now.